They say if you want to understand politics, you have to follow the money. In fact, that's how we explain our work here at OpenSecrets. Today, we're going to learn more about how Tennessee keeps an eye on the money influencing elections. I am David Myers, and this is the State of Disclosure. Today, I am speaking with Bill Young, Executive Director of Tennessee's Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance Commission. Bill, thanks for joining me today.
Sure. Thanks, David. Glad to help you guys.
So, Bill, I just gave the name of your agency, which is a mouthful. Tell me what it means to run the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance Ethics Commission.
Yes, the way it works in Tennessee, I report to the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance, and it is indeed a mouthful. That is a 12-member board. It really consists of two subboards, to be quite honest, that meet on a regular basis. The one you're probably most interested in is the Registry Finance Board that oversees all campaign finance activity in Tennessee. The other component is the Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission oversees very limited ethics matters, generally involving General Assembly members, but more importantly, oversees our statement of interest filing by candidates, local officials, and state officials. We average, depending on the year, anywhere from 7,000 to 11,000 of those intended to solicit information that will reveal any potential conflicts of interest by those candidates and officials, and also oversees the lobbyist and the employer of lobbyist registration with us and the data that those folks file with us. They are appointed one third by the governor, one third by the state senate, and one third by the state house. Uh, it's unique in its makeup in that by statute it's required to consist of 50% of the majority party, 50% of the minority party. So we have an even number of avowed Republicans and avowed Democrats on those boards.
So, excuse me, in a state like Tennessee, which leans towards the Republican side, is it difficult at times to find enough Democrats to serve on the board?
No, we've had no problem. We did it when I first arrived 6 years ago. We had a two-thirds of those boards holding over
Hmm.
past their terms expired, and we worked really hard to make sure that our state officials understood that it's important to have folks whose terms are there and that we don't have holdovers. So today we have 12 folks serving on the board. They're not paid anything but their expenses, so they're really doing this as a public service. They're very diligent. They generally will show up personally for the meetings. It's rare that we have someone actually call in for a meeting, and they're always there. And you mentioned, yeah, I think Tennessee is heavily Republican, except in the two major counties. But we do not lack for folks to serve as Democratic representatives, and we've got very good Democratic representatives on our two boards.
So it's safe to say that your boards are a lot more functional than the FEC is these days, considering it doesn't even have a quorum to meet.
Well, at the last time I looked, I think the FEC only had two members, the city members. So yes, they cannot even meet. We pride ourselves on the fact that the partisan politics is kept at a very minimum on both of
Mhm.
our boards. Generally, the decisions on our boards are unanimous. And even if there is a divided decision, sometimes you'll see Democrats and Republicans being together on the divide. They work together, they respect each other, they understand their job is not to engage in partisan politics, but instead to apply the law as written by our Tennessee General Assembly. And we've got really dedicated folks that take their job seriously, and that helps us do what we need to do.
How did you come to be in this position? Are you also essentially a volunteer, or is this a full time role for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, well, fortunately, I'm not a volunteer. This is a full-time paid position by the state of Tennessee. Basically, the board itself is independent. It is administratively attached to our Tennessee Secretary of State. The board, when there's a vacancy in my position, will appoint the successor. I went through a very intense interview process, a number of good qualified candidates applied for that job, and I was fortunate enough to be selected 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now.
And is your background in election work or something else that
My
got you there?
background is as an attorney. It's been a varied career for me. Almost 40 years as a licensed attorney in Tennessee. Spent a lot of time with the state attorney general's office, litigating cases, and in the senior management role, I was solicitor general for a while with the state AG under Bob Cooper. Uh, I also was director of the Administrative Office of Courts. I was a chancellor here in Davidson County for a couple of years. I spent 10 years as general counsel and other positions with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee. Worked for the hospital associations for a number of years. And I've only begun to touch on some of the various jobs I've had. But I've had a lot of experience in the state government. I've worked in the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Oh, I was deputy commissioner in the commerce and insurance for a number of years with TenCare oversight. So basically, my background's an attorney. I've been involved in elections for a long time.
Was there something specific about this role that drew you to it?
Basically, at the time I was in private practice. I was looking to get back in state government. When I left Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee almost 12 years ago, really I wanted to come back and serve with the state and return to my roots, so to speak. So that the executive director position was an opportunity, especially given my interest in elections and campaign finance. I talked to several of the board members and understood what the job required, and it sounded like a very interesting job and a meaningful job. We can make a difference here, and we have.
So let's talk about that. So how does your agency, your board, make sure that campaign financing is transparent in the state of Tennessee, and why is that so important?
Yes, I mean, you receive the PowerPoint that we do. A lot of the work we do is education around the state, educating various persons about what we do and why we do it and how they stay compliant with our laws. But it's all about transparency, as you mentioned before. Follow the money. And so all of our campaign finance statements are put on our website, as well as all the lobbying information, the names of the lobbyists, names of employers of lobbyists. They also give us certain financial data, as well as the statements of interest that identify any potential conflicts of interest. They ask questions like, if you filed a bankruptcy, do you have any lobbyists related to you? The sources of income. There's a lot of information garnered by those statements of interest that our state and local officials, as well as candidates, are required to file once a year. So all of that information is available on our website. It's you can search it and find that information. One thing that I don't do that my predecessor did, my predecessor would actually assimilate some of that information. And Drew Rollins did a great job when he was here. I just felt that we shouldn't be the ones assimilating that information, and we should make it available to the public, and then the public and the press can decide how to use it. And I want to mention here publicly that a guy named Adam Freedom with a Tennessee Lookout, which is a
Mhm.
press press agency that's social media mainly, but he takes the time to go in and look at the data and he assimilates it and he puts out a very detailed spreadsheet on who's giving to who, particularly around the political campaign committees that are registered with us. And it's very useful information to the public. We don't do that, but someone in the press has taken the time to do it, and it's very useful. It also shows that that information on our website can be assimilated. And it's an old website. We probably need to update it to make it even better, but it is capable of providing you the information that you need.
Yeah, that's what we do as well. We collect the NBC data as well as data from all 50 states and do the same kind of thing where we make it accessible to the public. But it's nice to see somebody's doing it specifically for the Tennessee media market. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah, we and again, that we feel that's the press's role. or organizations like yours roles is take the data we put out there and delve into it and make determinations on what it means. That's not our role. We just simply provide the raw data.
So last year, I noticed that the Tennessee legislature and then the governor signed or enacted a bill that restricted money from out of state political committees coming into Tennessee. Uh, can, are you familiar with that law to the point where you could talk
You know
about?
that I don't think that bill was enacted. There
No,
was
it
a
was
bill
not. I thought I saw it was.
there was a bill that tried to do that.
Okay.
That tried to restrict money coming into the state of Tennessee. I actually talked to some folks, but that bill, as my recollection, was not enacted.
So what was the thinking behind it?
Again, there's a lot of concern among General Assembly members, I think, about DART money,
Mhm.
about not being able to, that it's not transparent, which is what we do. And that money coming in from Tennessee, you couldn't really identify it, particularly from 501c3, C4 organizations that were giving money to either candidates or political campaign committees. As you know, under federal law, you can't find out who the donors are to those organizations without doing a lot of legwork. It's not reported to the Internal Revenue Service. So there was just concern about transparency on that. That was the proposed solution to deal with it. But like I say, it didn't go anywhere. Yeah, they are talking about that again this year. I hear that is being discussed, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere this year either.
Okay. Are there any common misconceptions among Tennesseans about the role money plays in your elections, whether it's how it's managed or the if it's pay to play? Uh, any common complaints you hear?
I mean, you hear complaints. There's a lot of complaints around the election side.
Well, whether maybe unfounded complaints. Obviously, people are going to point out things, irregularities, but are there things that people misperceive?
Yeah, I hate to say anyone misperceives any way. My job here is to administer the law that the General Assembly and the governor have passed, not to they suggest changes in the law. What I hear, I mean, you hear this common complaint. Some people think there's too much money in politics. Some folks are concerned about the Citizens United decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that allows unlimited independent expenditures. Um, there's concern about whether there's real coordination going under that would undermine those being independent expenditures. We don't see as much of that in Tennessee, but to your last question, that was the reason driving that legislation is more money coming into the state. The money in these races is increasing five, tenfold, and a lot of it is coming from groups, political campaign committees, or particularly around the voucher issues. You see a lot of spending, pro and con on the voucher bills that are pending in the state legislature. So, what's the best answer to that? Who knows? I do believe we need to be transparent. We're strongly in favor of that. Whether the contribution limits work anymore or not is debatable, particularly given the unlimited amount of money on independent expenditures. It just seems that that undermines the theory behind contribution limits.
What are the limits now in Tennessee?
I'm sorry I didn't catch that last question, David.
What are the contribution limits now in Tennessee?
For individuals, it's $1,900 per person. For PACs, I'd have it's much higher for political campaign committees, and they vary from House, Senate, and statewide races. That information is available on our website. I always remember the 1,900, and that's per person per election.
So per primary and general, people can
Correct.
get.
1,900 per primary, per general. You can give those will vary from every 2 years. We're required by state law to adjust them
Mhm.
based on the consumer price index as put out by the federal government. I think the next time we do that is in 2027,
Okay.
and
Um,
they generally go up. Generally,
right. Is there one thing you wish people knew more about or understood better based on all the information that flows through your office? Is there information you're trying to get out there that people haven't quite grasped?
The latest issues we've seen, and we've talked to both the Ethics Commission and the Registry Board about this. So we have a process in Tennessee where any Tennessean can file a sworn complaint alleging someone's in violation of the campaign finance laws or the Ethics Commission laws. A lot of misunderstanding on what the jurisdiction of our board is. We get a lot of complaints that we have no jurisdiction over, particularly on the ethics side, where they see ethics and they think, well, we're the one-stop shop for ethics, and we have very limited jurisdiction over ethics violations. We have none over local ethics. Those are governed by local codes of ethics. There are folks who are responsible for those, and they're handled at the local level. The other thing we see on the registry side that's becoming problematic is that folks are using the sworn complaint process as a way of basically advancing a political agenda. We've had several complaints that sound something like this. State Representative Bill Young, I'll use me. We don't agree with him. We think he's abusing his office by the positions he's taking publicly and the things he's saying in the press, and we think that's unethical. And we are asking the either the Ethics Commission or the Registry Board to come after him. Members of our Registry Board and Ethics Commission like to call that weaponizing our boards, basically trying to resolve political issues that are best resolved at the ballot box through our boards. And the boards are not amenable to that, neither am I. We enforce the law as it's written, but we're not the place you go to resolve political differences.
Right. I imagine in your role, you talk to people who have similar jobs in other states on a fairly regular basis. Are
Uh,
there, or maybe not that regular, but I'm sure there are times you have conversations with your peers in other states. Are there things you've learned from other states that you've adopted in Tennessee, and or are there things that states have looked at you and said, "Wow, that's great. Let us do the same kind of thing."
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in jobs where there have been, and we are a member of COGL, which is the association that basically has ethics and campaign finance organizations under its umbrella, not only here in the United States but in Canada. So we are a good standing member of that. They have conferences every year. Having said that, if you go from state to state, what you see is that the systems are different. The system we have is very different from what the FEC does,
Mhm.
Federal Election Commission. The communications mostly I've had with other states when our system is very old and we've been looking at redoing that system for the last 5 years probably, or even since I got here. And so we instituted a number of contacts with other states to see what systems they had in place. And we found a potpourri. I mean, most of them are homegrown like ours. Some do outside contractors. Some were happy with outside contractors, some weren't. But we worked. I give Maine a lot of credit. I talked to their election administrator. She actually put together a comprehensive list of what every state was doing and shared that with us. We talked to Georgia. They had gone to an outside contractor, as well as New Mexico, a number of other states, particularly in the Southeast. So we were picking up a lot of ideas from them, but unfortunately, I don't think any of us has found a great solution for that. You would think that the systems would be fairly uniform, that we would find something that a one-stop shop, but we haven't. And hopefully that'll
So,
change as technology improves.
given all these conversations you've had, and stories you've heard about how other states do things, if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing, whether it's write a new law or change a regulation or build a new system, what would be the first thing on your list to change?
Oh, and I told you before, I don't do change. I leave that up to the folks who are elected to do that in the General Assembly. Uh, One of the problems all of us have, and I think all the states, and is funding issues. Budget issues. We've been fighting for the last 4 or 5 years to get funds to redo our system,
Mhm.
even to get a second auditor, which we would love to have. I mean, as you know, at the FEC level, they basically assign a person to every candidate out there to make sure they file their statements correctly. We don't have that luxury here. We do look at them. We have one person designated, although Recently, I've decided not to do that going forward just because we don't have the staff to do it. We're mandated to do a number of audits every year. And our auditor who is doing that work needs to get those audits done. We're falling a little far behind on that. And so understaffed is one problem, but I'm sure everyone feels that way. And it's not just in our area, it's throughout the state. It's where we live.
Right. So understanding that change isn't your focus, as you look down the road, is there a way you see the system evolving? Not necessarily like a new law or net or something, but do you think there's going to be major changes, but maybe it's because of AI or something else that may not
Yes.
hit for 5 or 10 years or even longer?
Yeah, we just had lunch with a consultant we were getting ready to hire, and he was talking, and he's going to, because it's not my expertise, but he is an IT expert. He's going to help us figure that out. But he was talking about AI is going to make a big difference. We hope to go to a new system in 2027. We think it's actually going to be cheaper. I say we haven't been able to get the system, but that may be a good thing because the technology is evolving so fast, particularly with AI, that the system we eventually get will be better and cheaper than anything we might have looked at 2 or 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So that's a good thing. The common complaint we have on our system right now is the inability to upload data by spreadsheet. You basically have to key in all the information one by one, and it's one person at a time. You can have multiple people doing it because it only allows one person to get in at a
Oh,
time.
wow.
So we're hoping to change all of that through system improvements and make it easier. Um, I think the searchability works fairly well, even under our old system. I know some people complain about that, but again, the fact that Adam is able to do that, to look out, he's very young, very IT sophisticated, and he's able to pull that data out, and he does a great job with it. So, which indicates that our system is doing what it's supposed to, providing data to people to review to see what's going on in Tennessee.
And finally, my last question. Uh, Primaries are coming up about a month or so away, I think, in Tennessee, and then you've got the general election. What keeps you up at night right now?
It's a tough year. It's not our toughest year. Our toughest year was several years ago where everything was up, including the locals. But this is a tough year because we've got an open governor seat. We got a very contested primary, it looks like. Maybe not so contested on the general election side. We do see less and less contested elections in the House and Senate, although our Senate Speaker just announced today he was retiring, so his seat's going to be up. I'm sure that's going to be very contested. Uh, what keeps me up at night is the system issues, uh, people not being able to access the system, either to upload the data. And we deal with that on a day-to-day basis. We get calls every day with people who struggle with the system, so that does keep us up at night. I'd say that's the major issue right now is just making sure our system stays in place and is able to provide the people in the press the data that need to be provided to keep this a transparent process.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with that as the
Thank
years
you,
pass.
David. Appreciate all y'all do on your side. I mean, without organizations like you, a lot of this information is not disseminated to the public. So y'all do your role. We do our role by putting the data out there. And
Right.
let's just say it works fairly well in Tennessee, and it's a credit to our board members who take their job seriously, and also credit to our General Assembly and Governor who send us good people
Right.
who it's not partisan politics. They're here to do a job.
Excellent. Well, Bill, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great getting to know you and learning about how the system works in Tennessee. I really appreciate you making the time for me.
Hey, no problem, David. Listen, you be safe out there.
Thank you, you too. And if you'd like to learn more about how campaign finance works and the role of money in politics, just visit OpenSecrets.org.
Okay. Thanks, David. Have a good one now.
You too.
Bye bye.